Well, the countdown to tax day is on with the April 15th deadline just a few days away. The federal government expects to collect about 2.3 trillion in individual income taxes this year. The IRS expects more than 168 million individual tax returns. Now, filing, of course, something we do every year, but there are quite a few changes this year to consider. So with me is Kathy Pickering, the Chief Tax Officer at H&R Block, who can provide some valuable insights. So Kathy, welcome. And I guess maybe it's a little too late for this year, but next year, what are the benefits for filing early?
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. And the benefits of filing early are some of the obvious ones. When you file early, it means that you'll get your refund that much faster because generally they process them in a first in, first out method. The other thing that may not be quite so obvious to people is that when you file early, you in effect lock your social security number with the IRS. And so it protects you from identity theft. We've seen an increasing number of people whose identities have been compromised in all different manners. And then when they go to file, somebody else has already used their information. So it's a great way to protect your identity when you file early.
That is really interesting. I've never heard that before, but what a great point. Now, there's some new tax brackets too. So, what should people know about that?
Well, so the IRS updates their tax brackets and the standard deductions each year, but this year it was a little bit more generous. So, what that means is if your situation stayed about the same, you're going to see a better tax outcome. So, if you're expecting a refund, it's going to be a little bit bigger. We're seeing that right now, on average, refunds are just a little bit bigger. And otherwise, it just means you're going to owe just a little bit less money. So, good news on that front.
And what about state disaster extensions?
So we have seen that there's been a couple situations, nowhere near as much as what we saw in the prior year, but this year there have been various states that have had some situations where, they're just in natural disasters. And what you need to know is that if you're in a federally declared disaster area and the state has issued an extension, in general, that will give you until June 15th. So not the October 15th extension deadline, but until June 15th. And for that, either go to the HR Block website or check on the IRS or your local state area just to make sure that you're getting your information right.
Okay, speaking of extension, so here we are, just a few days from the deadline. Maybe you just don't have it all together yet. You could file for an extension. What are the steps in that? How does somebody start that process?
So I really want everybody to understand that an extension to file your taxes is not an extension to pay your taxes. Because a lot of people get to this point, they're like, "Uh-oh, I owe some money. I'm going to file an extension." And what you need to do is pay your estimated taxes. If you think you owe money, you need to pay that when you're filing your extension. Filing an extension is really pretty easy. You can go online, it's a simple form, and it will give you an automatic extension until October 15th. However, again, that extension to file is not an extension to pay, and the penalties for not paying your taxes are 10 times higher than the penalties. Oh, well, I'm sorry, I said that reverse. If you don't file, those penalties are 10 times higher than not paying.
Okay.
So no matter what, if you get to April 15th and you just can't get it over the finish line, make sure you file an extension.
Okay, so the important thing is file. Don't just ignore it. Um,
Don't just ignore it.
Absolutely, like acknowledge that you realize you have this and you're just asking for a little more time to get together the money to pay. Um, what about security, online filing? Is this a secure way to file?
Absolutely. And interestingly, it's more secure than paper because it can't be intercepted. What's interesting is it's also the fastest way to file. So when you file electronically, you'll get an immediate acceptance from the IRS, and then they've got it, and it's off and running. And couple of things that I would just say to remind people is, make sure you're practicing good online safety practices. Don't reuse passwords. Don't use the same password for filing your taxes that you use for anything else. And be super careful about any phone calls from the IRS because they don't call. And if you get emails, don't click on those links. Make sure you go to the original website and validate that you're getting it from the right place.
Right, that is an important point. The IRS will only mail you. They don't call you or email you. So if
We
you
like to say if
call,
the IRS is calling, hang up.
that's a red flag. So now this child tax credit, they were debating in the Senate. Where does that stand?
Well, at the moment, it still hasn't moved forward. We thought that it might get passed as early as January, and then a lot of other things have taken precedence. So at this point, what we make sure to tell people is no matter what happens, if that legislation gets passed and there's more money due people who claimed the child tax credit, the IRS is going to automatically calculate that adjustment and send you any additional money due. So no reason to wait, no reason to worry about it. Go ahead and file your taxes as is today. And if you're due any more money, they'll send it to you later.
Now, student loans have gotten a lot of attention lately. Is the interest on that able to be deducted?
Yes, this is good news, especially for people that are now back having to pay student loans. You're able to take that interest deduction as an above the line deduction, which means you don't have to itemize in order to be able to claim it. You can just claim it straight up on your 1040 form.
Okay. And the EV tax credit?
This is something that's been getting so much buzz. So, if people have purchased an electric vehicle, they were able to get a credit, usually at the dealership, to reduce the purchase price. And then you just have to reconcile that on your tax return. You're going to have to claim that credit and make sure that it's all accounted for.
A lot of people are doing side hustles now, making a little extra money on the side. We're dealing with inflation and things like that. What do they need to know about filing taxes for the side hustle?
The big thing here is that there is a new law that will be coming into place next year, so that if you earn $5,000 or more, the payment platforms will be sending you a 1099-K to report that income. So this is a good time to take stock and just say, how much money am I making? Am I holding out the taxes that I need to for it? Am I ready for that change coming into effect next year?
Got it. So the Venmo, the PayPals, they will be sending them the
Yeah,
1099.
your rideshare drivers, those
Yeah.
kinds of things. Mhm.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kathy. We are right down to the wire here. I haven't filed mine yet, but I plan to this weekend. So
Yeah,
yeah.
make sure you get it done. And
Yeah.
hrblock.com has great information if you've got questions on anything. So check us out. Thank you so much and get filing.
Thank you.